What is good, guys? So we're finally back with a video from Bleach. Now, I know that the first core has already concluded on my channel, but there was something that I really wanted to dissect before we start really getting hammering into the second core. Now, before we knew about the royal palace, we only had a just imagination of what heaven could be like, especially for the project itself. So in order for us to imagine what does it mean for a place like this, especially when it comes to the Bleach universe. Now, the royal palace was fully introduced in the first core, where we saw the grand entrance of the royal palace. It almost reminds me of Zeno's palace in a weird way, because you have the floating pillars that is basically holding up this gigantic round castle, and it's like they have their own sun, or their own separate universe around the Serite. And I remember Sunsui mentioned to Ichigo that the walls that covers the royal palace is supposed to be around it. Instead of that, it's below where the Serite is. So those gates that are around the Soul Society should have been up, which means that would have been a different dynamic if you were to look at it. Now, what's even more cool is that those giant discs are like the floating cities. Now, looking at those things, you could even imagine that these things are like comparison to the Soul Society. They could be each like Soul Society size mega cities. And we know that each squad zero, as Hikifune mentioned, that each squad zero has their own barracks, and you could tell it's massive. There's trinkets of little towns, and then the main castles are in the middle, and that's for each squad member. That is some insane feat when you think to look at it, because looking at it from here and how tiny each of the small little cities are, with its own I guess its own environment, its own element, because each squad zero has an ability that is pertained to them. Or what she mentioned was that each squad member are able to build something that is beneficial to the Soul Society. And for each of those squad members, they designed that idea into their quartered barracks, right? It's pretty cool to even think of that, because looking at it from there, it's like their own have their own walls or their own little universe below the, I guess I'm assuming the middle spear is the Soul King's spear, which is also his castle, which is also, I'm trying to figure out also, is how come these things are floating. Is it due to reishi? I know that they say reishi is very important, especially anywhere in the Soul Society, but I think especially in the royal heavenly place where the Soul King is, it is abundant with reishi. That is also pretty awesome as well. And we saw the different Korean dens, which is what she mentioned, the different castles, how it represent each squad member of the Zero Squad. So Hikifune is, I'm assuming that Nemaya, because he's the one that created the sword, he issued out different Asauchis that aid the day-to-day task for each squad zero member. Because we knew that the only two people that was in the first Kirin Den, which was what's his name, Tenjiro, which is the healing medic for squad zero. He has I'm assuming they're people, or they're Asauchis also, Because from what I heard, it's only 5 of them that's actually there. That's actually like human, like shinigamis and stuff like that, like living things. And then followed by that, I find it very eerie that I can't wait for them to give us a more bigger backstory on the Soul King, and they call the Soul King Rayo. And his eyes, like the way they have him in that crystal. Like I said, I know Core 3 is gonna expand a lot. But I can't wait to cover Core 2 because I think there's a lot of details that I either miss or I haven't watched or understand. But the Soul King definitely is the figurehead of the entire city itself, because his castle looks completely different from the different quadrants of the Squad Zeros, because his is like a giant those spinning tops. Imagine you put like a cylinder and then you put like 2 spinning tops in top and bottom. That makes it's like a giant crystal. Like his castle is like a floating giant crystal that sits on the I'm guessing the center of above the sun of the Soul Society, and then surrounding it is the different palaces. Like that is, and that's another thing too. How can they get up there? That's my interest as well, because it seems like all of these places are very detached from each other and they have like their own atmosphere, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. But they say like the whole palace or the whole universe of the royal palace could be able to move. Thus, that's how they have like their oaken from like their bones, as Ichibei mentioned, which is pretty. I can't wait for them to expand more on the city itself, like the architecture itself of the royal palace. I think it's a beautiful sight, but I also think that, from Core 2, I can't wait to see what they expand from them, because I know Ichigo's getting training from each of the Zero Squads. So let's see what happened, but this was an interesting intake that I took from the first Core, and I hope you guys like it too. Like and subscribe. See you later.